Thanks for checking out ChartGuys.com, home of technical analysis education in both the stock market and cryptocurrency worlds. See the links in the description of this video for more information on our two courses, entries and exits on the fundamentals of technical analysis, as well as our new course on trading cryptocurrency strategy. Purchase both and receive a 20% off bundle discount. Thanks for checking us out. Let's get on to the technical analysis. Hello crypto friends, hope you had a good weekend. Before we get into it, want to mention that we are now accepting Bitcoin as a payment option for our courses. And we've also, at the end of October, going to be doing a live session answering questions about the alert system and how we use it, and also indicating or putting in 5 more indicators that we're going to be using in that alert system and talking about where we're going with the future of it. So Bitcoin on the daily time frame is consolidating after the recent all-time high. We have put in a higher low at this point at 57.56. You can see similarly, we had a very big dip and we formed a support before continuation, and we just had a similar pullback, bouncing off support from oversold conditions, and now the bulls are going to look to turn it back around and head back to recent highs. To do so, we're going to have to break 4-hour lower highs, which the bulls have started to do, and you can see they are shifting that momentum. At this point, we have seen a bounce from the low of 57.56 all the way up to just about 6,000. So a $250 bounce or so. And from now, the resistance is the high of the bounce, 60.42. So the bulls need to break 60.42 to see continuation. It's more clear on the hourly time frame. But the difference here is that we are seeing a lower high and lower low pattern shift to a higher low and potentially higher high pattern. This was a potential bull flag I was watching that did not play out, so I'm going to remove that. But here's our low, and when we broke this lower high right here of 59.68, that told us, okay, we are no longer in a lower high pattern. So we assumed that on this consolidation, we were going to form a higher low and shift that trend. Lower highs and lower lows to a break of the lower highs and now a higher low. And if we see a break of that 60.42 level, we then have a higher high. At this point, the high of this move is 60.30 and still has some upside to go, $12 in order to break to that higher high. So that's where we stand with Bitcoin. The bulls are definitely back in control after breaking that lower high pattern. At this point, the hourly higher low, 58.56, is a must-hold level. If that were to break, that would certainly be a red flag to the bulls. But we're just looking at this resistance right now, which we are much closer to. Checking in, just zooming into the 15-minute time frame, we can see the bulls are still strong. It would be a short-term red flag if we broke 59.31, our most recent higher low on the 15-minute. And that's what we're looking at for Bitcoin. Still in control for the bulls. We're also watching the Ethereum and Bitcoin ratio. And yesterday that had us looking for a bounce in Ethereum. And I will point out why in just a moment. Changing to ETH BTC 4-hour time frame on Coinbase. And we can see the RSI got down to 20. And recently I pointed out in a video to be watching for that because the RSI has bounced off of 20 pretty consistently in the past. Look at all the lowest levels we're hitting right on 20, and then very significant bounces. We have dipped below it a few times, but either way, it has led to significant bounces. I'm looking back to June and I'm seeing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and now 8 because of the bounce off that level, where that is the target to be looking for the oversold bounce to play out. And we did see a nice 12 hours of upside when Ethereum saw that bull move back on Saturday. And we were watching that move. Ethereum was the one to be watching on Saturday due to that correlation. And when I noted that that correlation was at a 20 RSI level, I saw that Ethereum was oversold on the 15-minute, the hourly, and approaching oversold on the 4-hour. Also reasons that we were looking at Ethereum on Saturday. So it did end up being a nice bounce from 287 all the way up to 316.21. Certainly a significant bounce. And actually, that's actually Thursday's bounce. The bounce that we saw on Saturday was from 291.38 all the way up to 306.55. So $15 bounce, certainly still worthwhile, but we have a clear 4-hour, not really a descending triangle pattern, although you could call it that at this point, more of a lower high, higher low pattern. But now that we have this double low looking down at 291.38 and 291.81, that's pretty much a descending triangle pattern. You could draw the trend line, but again, I'm more concerned with the price levels than I am with that trend line, but it's certainly rejecting the price. So it's a tightening range. The most recent lower high is 306.55. Anything under that is still another lower high. And looking at, need to add the indicator here. I seem to have lost my RSI level, and there it is. And we can see the bounces that have occurred have occurred with the 4-hour RSI hitting 30. So what I'm looking for, and what we were looking for yesterday as well, is I'm just patiently waiting as we're getting tight here. In my opinion, if we see a break of 290, we are going to see a move down to 287.40 and then 285.88. Those are two very important supports, because if those break, we're looking down at 278. So the setup that I'm seeing here is we are either going to see a break of the lower high pattern, which is going to tell us the bulls are back in control, or we are going to see a flush down, a break of 290, some stop losses triggering under those supports in the upper 280s, and then a move potentially into the lower 280s, where we can be looking for an oversold bounce and bottom fishing off of the flush that will occur if that breakdown does happen. Now, the ETH BTC chart, the RSI on the 4-hour time frame has cooled off significantly. The bulls are going to have to form a higher low and then see a break of 5145 on the 4-hour time frame to see that momentum shift. Right now, it's still a downtrend. This oversold bounce is still just another lower high. So we need the higher low, which right now is 4865, and then we have to break the most recent lower high of 5145. So that's the channel to be watching there. But back to ETH, if we see this bear break, the 4-hour RSI will be approaching oversold by the time we get to the mid 280s, and it would definitely be worthwhile to watch because we have seen some decent oversold bounces in the recent past. The daily time frame is just a slow fade here for Ethereum. The bulls are nowhere to be found, and ever since we had, we have the Bitcoin and the controversial fork, and this was a so-called non-controversial fork for Ethereum. But ever since then, we have now seen 9 red days in a row. So if you're trading off fundamentals and not looking at the charts, you are likely bearish Bitcoin due to the uncertainty and bullish Ethereum due to the certainty just of their situations and where they stand right now. And that's not what we're seeing on the chart. So that is why it is essential to have an eye for technical analysis as well as fundamental analysis. So even though things that you think are going to happen, if you're not seeing them happen on the chart, you know that you can shift your trade based off of that. So Ethereum is still all bears. We're watching for a potential flush for a bullish oversold entry opportunity. Litecoin is correlating to Bitcoin, although weaker. So we do see the Litecoin bulls show up when the Bitcoin bulls do, but it's not as significant. So I'm looking down at support on the daily of 5612 and then down to 5290. And you can see we've seen pretty bearish action the last few days as well. On the 4-hour time frame, I can see that we have a lower high, lower low pattern still intact. The bulls are doing their best to hold the low $56 range. 5620, 5624, 25, 12, 30, and it's still just clear lower highs. We've got resistance at 58.89, and most recently, the lower high is 57.90. So essentially, I'm watching 57.90 resistance and 56.12 support. If we break 56.12, we're looking down at 52.90. The bounces that happen from oversold conditions when all three of the big three are correlated together are more significant in terms of percentages in Litecoin, more often than not. That's because a little bit of volume goes a long way, so those oversold bounces definitely have some quick, fast momentum behind them. So definitely worth keeping an eye on if we see the bears follow through on Litecoin and get into oversold conditions. 4-hour RSI is at 40, a lot of room before we're oversold there. This is a more clear view of that lower high pattern on the hourly time frame here. And it's important to look at both time frames because you see this little lower high here. We did break that, but you zoom out to the 4-hour time frame and you can see that that really didn't do anything to the lower high pattern here, and it wasn't significant. So always shift back even when you see things happen. Look at what they look like on different time frames and get more clues and details as to what's going on. VTC, look at that breakout today. The past 2 days, we've gone from 169 all the way up to 485. So that's why we're getting attention there. That's a 200% move in 2 days. Haven't seen altcoins make this kind of move in a while, but huge gains. And we got overbought very quickly. And we are not at all-time highs. We need to make that point. Look at the weekly time frame and shift back. Although it was just a little bit of volume when we first started trading, we were up in the $6, $7 range. So technically speaking, it is not an all-time high, which means we are very overbought. We can see the weekly time frame RSI is in the mid-80s. The daily time frame RSI is in the mid-80s, and it was even higher than that at the high of today. It was in the 90s. On the 4-hour time frame, the RSI is now cooling off. Look at the volume climax. Bearish reversal candlestick confirmed on the pullback. This is why you need to be so careful chasing these runners, and you don't want to experience FOMO and just jump in, because if you bought above $4, we went from $4.79 and 8 hours later, we're down at $3.17, $3.18. So someone is already down about 20 to 25% in their position in just a matter of hours. And that's a poor entry, someone who chased. So looking at the hourly time frame to see when the bulls are going to show up, we have to see a break of the lower high, lower low pattern and see a higher low and higher high to indicate the bulls are showing back up. We're close to seeing a move on the hourly. When you see the volume drop off like this, it tells you the ranges are tightening and we're going to see a spike in volume and a clear break in one direction or the other. The hourly time frame is an inside bar and now a second inside bar, and we'll watch to see if we get a break here. We just almost had a bull break on the 15-minute time frame, and it's actually more easy to see on the 5-minute, but there was one key point here. So we had a top at 352, and then we saw a tightening range play out and a 5-minute equilibrium. So here's the equilibrium where we had our low, little high of a bounce, higher low, lower high, higher low, very tight, looked like a bull break, didn't get over that resistance. We rejected just under that resistance, and now we're back to our tight channel. So while that was a bull signal short term, and it looked like the bulls were going to break out, had to get over that level of 352 to enter an area without a ton of resistance all the way up to the upper 380s. And of course, that didn't happen, and the big upper wick showed profit taking. So support right now is down at 330. And if 330 were to break, I'd be looking down at 327 and 321. So still a very tight range to be watching. We can be looking for a bull break because if we do see a break over these levels, could see a very easy 5 to 10% move. But again, this is a very high risk, high reward trade, and we need to be cautious to not chase, and we always need to have an exit plan. The last thing you want to be doing is holding the bag of a coin that has run 200% in 2 days and is now about to enter consolidation for multiple days at the least. So not saying that's what's going to happen here, but that happens very often, and we'll see which direction we break on this short-term 5-minute time frame. So that's where we stand on the big three and VTC as we head into a new week. And I'm going to be watching again. ETH is where my sights are set, but I'm going to be watching LTC as well. I have been trading Bitcoin at the end of the last video. Before heading out for the weekend, I said I wanted to grab that 6,000 break, and I did do that right when I ended the video. I bought the end of the 6,000 resistance wall, and let's look at that real quick. So about the end of the 6,000 resistance, and we were looking for, I think I said a $75 move. I ended up locking it in after $64 here, right near the top of this move before we did see continuation. And again, that's just because I had to go soon, and I saw the shift in the order book. There was no resistance here, but I saw the order book shift, and I sold a couple dollars from the top, and then went about my life and was able to come back and see that I didn't miss a whole lot besides some short-term oversold bounces. So getting back into the flow, and ETH is on watch. I will be watching LTC for potential flush oversold bounces because those, like I said, give us the best short-term percentages in terms of gains, at least recently. But other than that, let's see if Bitcoin can turn it around and head back to the all-time high. If it can, we might see that inverse correlation to ETH come back and drive it down through these supports that I mentioned. So I hope you have a good rest of your Sunday, and we'll see you soon.